In 1935, two unlikely climbers set their sights on Istor-o-Nal, where superstition, ice, and a knife-edged ridge stood between ambition and one of the last great unclimbed peaks of the Hindu Kush.
It's 2:20 a.m. I'm still buried in the Himalayan Club Journals, century-old field notes from the Himalayas. It's like diving deep into the documented history of the Himalayas from the early 1900s. The journals cover everything, from indigenous wisdom, cultural myths, to epic expeditions and groundbreaking discoveries. These forgotten stories are brought to life by synthetic voices in the Himalayan Journals podcast. Subscribe, zone out, binge, and pass it to a fellow mountain junkie.
In the summer of 1935, a chance conversation in Chitral turned into an ambitious plan. Captain R.J. Lawder had just been posted there when he met Mr. D.N.B. Hunt. The two spoke of mountains and almost light-heartedly decided they would attempt to climb Istor-o-Nal, the great outlier of the Turk group in the Hindu Kush. At 24,271 feet, Istor-o-Nal was second only to Turk itself. Neither man had technical mountaineering experience. Hunt had been to 18,000 feet while skiing, Lawder to over 20,000 while shooting, but this was something entirely different. They planned for August, the only time when both could get leave. They recruited 3 Hunza porters, hoping their reputation might stiffen the resolve of the Chitralis, who were known to fear the high mountains. These peaks were believed to be the homes of spirits, red-haired maidens, and even monstrous glacial frogs. Such superstitions had stopped earlier expeditions. In 1929, a survey of India team had reached only 20,200 feet, their progress blocked more by unwilling coolies than by the mountain. But this time, with the Hunza men present and a Chitral scout havildar as quartermaster, Lawder and Hunt felt better prepared. On July 27th, they met at Uthul at 9,000 feet. Hunt came from Garan, 16 miles away, while Lawder had ridden 56 miles from Chitral. Their supplies had been sent ahead. For hours they sorted the 51 loads, each weighing 60 pounds, nearly half of which were rations for the porters. The following day, they crossed the Zanian Pass at 13,000 feet, descended, and camped at Shagram in the Turk Valley. The day after, they pushed on to Shekniak at 11,800 feet, half a mile from the snout of the Turk Glacier. This became Camp A, their coolie base, where most of the men would later wait. On July 30th, they marched 5 miles up the glacier to establish Camp B at 13,300 feet. It was a rough march over moraine, 7 hours of struggle for the porters. By August 1st, they had climbed to Camp 1 at 14,900 feet, over shale and soft snow. Here, tents had to be set on paving stones, for streams soon began to flow beneath them. 8 chosen porters remained. The rest returned to Camp A. The next day, they rested, preparing for higher ground. The route ahead divided into 4 parts: a snowfield of crevasses, a steep couloir, a 300-foot rock face, and finally a long knife-edged ridge leading almost to the summit. On August 3rd, they reconnoitered the couloir, cutting steps through ice and snow squalls. At the top, they found a sheltered site for Camp 2, perched on a col with a 5,000-foot drop on the far side. On August 4th, they carried loads up, reaching 21,400 feet in just 5 hours before sliding back down in style. On the 5th, they moved up in earnest, Lawder feeling unwell but pressing on. That night, Hunt's bearer revealed a treasure. 6 dozen eggs carried hidden among the loads, none broken. At 21,000 feet, fresh eggs became their most prized food. On August 6th, Hunt and 2 Chitralis tackled the rock wall. It was said to be fairly easy, though the route overhung a sheer precipice. Ropes and pitons gave some sense of security. By August 8th, they were cutting steps along the ridge. Cornices forced them below the crest onto 45-degree ice. Twice, fear of avalanches sent them back early, wasting precious days. On the 10th, Hunt, with 1 Hunza and 1 Chitrali, cut 450 yards of steps and reached 22,300 feet, where the ridge broadened and soft snow allowed easier progress. The following day, August 11th, dawned fine and clear. They left Camp 2 at 7 a.m. Hunt was strong, but Lawder, stricken by cramp at 22,800 feet, could go no farther. Hunt and 2 porters pressed on. He watched them cross a narrow section only 4 inches wide for 20 yards, like tightrope walkers. By early afternoon, they were within 400 yards of the summit, just 200 feet below it. But exhaustion stopped them. They turned back, certain they could not return safely if they went higher. On August 13th, clouds and wind ended any chance of another attempt. Reluctantly, they descended. The couloir was treacherous, the old steps frozen and slick. Hunt slipped 50 feet, but stopped himself with his axe. By noon, they reached Camp 1, and by evening, the comforts of base camp. On the 15th, they returned to Chagram. Hunt rode back to Chitral. Lawder went off on a long tour. In retrospect, both men believed that one more day of good weather might have carried them to the top. The last 400 yards, they felt, was only a matter of steady plodding. They had come close, but not close enough. Hunt, astonishingly strong, had gone from 5,000 to 24,000 feet in just 14 days. The porter struggled with altitude, though one, Pinanjan, proved himself the finest climber of all. They were disappointed, yet proud. They had organized their expedition with precision. Their loads and supplies accounted for to the last item. They had faced superstition, fatigue, and the knife-edge ridges of Istor-o-Nal. And though the summit was not reached, they had spent 3 remarkable weeks on one of the highest unclimbed mountains of the Hindu Kush.